Need more help or just want to show your support? Then head over to my Patreon and join my team, where you can get exclusive content like ebooks and bonus plays, as well as early access to my vids and more. Link in the description below. Alright, welcome back YouTubers and Madden fans. This is Madden Money Shot, bringing you another Madden 19 preview. I got 3 more of these team previews to go. It's going to be real simple. This one's going to be the worst teams to pick for CFM or to play with regular gameplay. And then I'm going to do my sleeper teams and I'm going to do my best teams. So if you guys want to see those, do me a favor, hit the like button and I'll do that. The second they hit 50 likes, I'll go ahead and I'll put the second series of the videos out. So I would like to do these one every day. But today, like I said, this is the worst teams, sleeper teams next. The worst teams, to me, there's not really any teams that are not savable. But the 7 teams I'm going to talk about today are pretty damn close. So let's go ahead and let's get into the first one. First up on my worst list, and probably the least worst team on this list, is the Miami Dolphins. This is a team that I almost had on my sleepers list, but my sleepers list was just too big, so they got downgraded to this list. Sorry, Dolphins fans, but they really have some decent players around their team. But their biggest issue is lack of playmakers. Danny Amendola is probably, I mean, it's their highest rated player and he's only an 84 speed. That's not really beating anybody in this game. Kenny Still's got some speed, but it's not like it's elite to beat anybody deep. Kenyon Drake is a decent guy to work up, so is Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki. So like I said, you can see where the fingerprints are that make this team possible team to build up. But it's the defensive side where they have some issues as well. On the defensive side, they got a couple of playmakers, mostly defensive ends. For some reason, that 3 of their top 4 playmaking, above 80 players are all defensive ends. But after that, a lot of work has to be done. Their cornerbacks, Mika Fitzpatrick, has a lot of talent, but he's got to be worked up. Bobby McCann, I don't even think that guy's really a long-term guy to keep. Tony Lippett, another cornerback, not very fast. He's tall, but realistically, pretty much everything on the defensive side of the ball has to be worked up, a lot like the offensive side of the ball. So this is a team, like I said, almost made sleepers, but just too much work has to be done. Next up on our worst, the first, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Here's a team that on offense has one elite playmaker in David Johnson, and then they just have a bunch of barren holes around the rest of the offense. They got some guys like Larry Fitzgerald, who, he's 6'3", he's 100 years old. His speed is an 83, which just does not get it done. I mean, he'll probably catch the ball if it's thrown to him in a tight window, but he's not a playmaker. I can't consider a guy with that speed to still be a playmaker. Jermaine Gresham, he's just been around forever. They have, no real tight end. Jermaine Gresham is not really much of a player. I don't know how he continues to have an 82 overall. Their offensive line, Justin Pugh, whatever, he's the only guy over 80. And then their quarterback situation, Sam Bradford shouldn't even be on this roster because he's not going to probably play a snap. He'll probably get, killed by a gust of wind. And then their quarterback situation is pretty much just throw Josh Rosen in there and work him up. I mean, like I said, they have a few guys like J.J. Nelson and Christian Kirk who have to move down pretty far to find their second-round pick, who have a little bit of speed, but realistically, their offense is really missing. On the defensive side of the ball, though, they do have an elite pass rusher and an elite corner. But other than that, it's just a bunch of nonsense. I mean, Deion Buchanan and their first-round pick last year at linebacker, Hassan Riddick, have speed, but they got to be worked up. And then you look at their safeties. I mean, Antoine Bethea is like 1 million years old as well. Jamar Taylor's not a bad addition, and Budda Baker's a young guy. You can, you have a decent secondary, but their front seven's really not that great. Marcus Golden should probably be rated higher, but he's not, so I can't give any credit for that. But I think the guy had a 10-sack season. Next up, we got the Colts. This is a team that for years has been carried by Andrew Luck and a bunch of offensive weapons and wide receivers. They don't have any of that anymore. T.Y. Hilton is pretty much the best thing that they have. The offensive line is pretty decent or workably decent, but realistically, when you only have 1 receiver and 2 tight ends, decent 2 tight end set, no running backs really. Their best running back is Marlon Mack, who has like a 77 overall. Naheem Hines, though, keep an eye for him at 93 speed. But realistically, that's not even the biggest issue. The biggest issue is defense. The defensive side of the ball is an absolute disaster pretty much every year. I mean, they have guys that you can work up like TJ Green and Malik Hooker and stuff like that in the secondary, but their cornerbacks are terrible. Their defensive front 7 is pretty much non-existent. I mean, John Simon's like the only linebacker worth anything. Jabal Sheard, who used to be an outside linebacker, I guess he switched defensive end. He's got some talent, but realistically, that's it. Second to last horrible team here, only 1 more team to go, and we got the Buffalo Bills coming in at number 2. LaShawn McCoy obviously is a great talent. He's getting a little bit old. He's losing some speed. He'll lose some agility eventually. But he's a great player. Calvin Benjamin, guys like 6'5", Charles Clay, good player. Chris Ivory, even a pretty decent backup. But their biggest issue is weapons after those guys. Their receiving core is just a bunch of guys. Jeremy Curley, who's been floating around the league. Zay Jones. They don't really have a quarterback either. That's kind of important, right? Josh Allen right now is a great quarterback to work up. He's got amazing arm strength. But for now, he's a 74 overall, probably the lowest rated rookie quarterback. And their offensive line pretty much stinks. Their best offensive lineman, I think, is a 77, which is not going to get much done in, creating blocks for guys like LaShawn McCoy and Chris Ivory. But on the defensive side, their issues continue. I mean, I'm on record as saying that they have one of the best secondaries in the game because of Malik Hyde, Jordan Poyer, and Tre'Davious White. It's hard to find elite cornerbacks. But after that, their linebackers stink. Their defensive line is extremely mediocre with Hughes. Kyle Williams is probably going to retire in a year or two. They just don't have a lot other than those top 3 guys. So this entire team needs to be reworked. Drum roll, please. We have the final worst team in Madden 19, the New York Jets. I promise you, Jets fans, there's a silver lining at the end of this. But this team just doesn't have anything. I mean, their talent is barren on the offensive side. You can see Robbie Anderson's pretty decent. Jermaine Gresham, obviously pretty decent. But other than that, I mean, look at this offense, man. There's just a bunch of guys below 80. They have a couple of quarterbacks, though. Teddy Bridgewater, I'm not sure if you really want to keep him. Sam Darnold is probably the future, but you got to work him up quite a bit. Second lowest rated first round quarterback, Sam Darnold. So even EA doesn't think a whole lot of him. But on the defensive side, it gets a little bit better, but not by much. Remember when the New York Jets were known for their nasty run-stopping defense? Well, all that's gone now. They lost all those guys. They still got Leonard Williams, though, who's obviously a star player in the making. But Steve McClellan's just a guy. Avery Williamson, just a guy. But their secondary's got some talent. Jamal Adams showed he's got a lot of ability. And Tremaine Johnson, who's 6'2", who's not really quite fast enough to be an elite corner. But 6'2", obviously, is going to get him in the mix for a lot of jump balls. Their secondary's not too bad. I mean, Buster Skrine is a good slot corner. Morris Claiborne had a pretty decent year. Marcus May is a guy that you can start for some time and build him up. So obviously the secondary is a bright spot, but the true silver lining, and I said this in the beginning of the video, is that no team is beyond saving, and the Jets are even one of those teams, as they have $90 million in salary cap going forward into Madden 19. So if you are one of those guys that loves projects, the Jets are perfect for you. You can definitely bust this team up and make them a pretty good team in not too much time. So that's it. If you guys want to see the next video, sleeper teams, do me a favor, hit the like button and I'll do that. Other than that, thanks for watching the Madden Money Shot out.